Hey you guys, so today I want to talk about keeping tabs on your mix from the beginning of your production all the way through. I want to talk about why I think it's important to really be mixing all along as you're creating your recording, and how that really helps you understand what you need to add, what you don't need to add, how well the sounds are working together. So here we go. Years ago, when the producer would come in with an artist and a group of musicians or a band, there was a process that went on that was in many ways sort of almost opposite of the way we look at things now. And they might have an arrangement that was written out and the band or the musicians would perform, or it might be that the band had rehearsed something ahead of time, or it might be that even in the studio they start to put kind of the band arrangement together as they're in the studio. But the process was really very live. It didn't have anything to do with laying one part and then listening and laying another part, much like we do today. So it really was this collage of sound that was being created in real time. And working like that has pros and cons. One of the pros is that when you have a band or a group of musicians that are already creating a collective live sound, they're bringing some kind of personality, some kind of attitude, structure. It's all happening. So a producer doesn't necessarily have to put on his hat and say, well, what do I want this to sound like? I mean, the nature of the players is going to help define that in a huge way. But one of the cons of working like that is until you get what they're doing on tape and have the whole collage of sound coming at you out of two speakers, you really don't know what you have in terms of the mix. You don't know where everything should sit. You don't know if some things need to go away and some things need to be brought to the front. And so the idea of just getting things to tape in the old days was key. Just getting the sounds recorded in a quality way and not worrying too much about the mix until everything is laid down. Today, working in the box in your computer, especially on pop music where a producer like myself may be sitting here and creating all of the sounds, it really is a very opposite process. I can start by laying down a beat, bringing in a bass or a keyboard or guitar or whatever inspires me, just listening to how those things interact and deciding from there what it's telling me it needs. Does it need more percussion? Are the sounds working well together? And that's my process as a producer. I like to lay something down that I feel has some magic to it. And then when I start layering other parts, I try to see how those things are interacting. And I will be playing with the mix between them to see how they sit, how they're working. Do they work together? And does something else need to be added? Or do they do the job all by themselves? And as I've talked about in other videos, I really like the less is more philosophy, especially in certain sections of songs. I really hope that I can do the heavy lifting with fewer sounds for the most part. So there's no question that for my process, I do need to be keeping an eye, keeping tabs on the mix as I'm moving forward. So let me show you what I did on this one recording I have up today. I'll talk a little bit about the process and how I sort of fit the sounds together mix-wise, and then kept moving along and deciding as I looked at the mix what I should add or why I shouldn't add any more. So check it out, then I'll break it down. Okay, when I first started creating this, The one focus that I had, the client had come to me with the song existed, it was a piano and a bass line. Had kind of a triplet feel, as you can see. First thing I wanted to attack were the basses in the chorus. One of the things that I had in mind with this was I wanted to really keep the focus musically on the bass. I didn't want to add a lot of textures over it. I really wanted it to do as much work as it could by itself. And I remember I started with this bass, which is a bass that comes from Omnisphere called Low Blood Sugar Bass. Now once I got that, and I really loved it, thought it was simple, it had a nice edge on the top. In fact, I probably added a little bit of extra with this plugin, Homicide. Definitely gives it some edge up in the upper mids. I felt like I wasn't getting enough low end from that bass though, and so I actually took that bass and I rolled out the low end, as you can see, to leave room for my low end. You'll see it over here, look at this, I actually, if you look at the panning, I panned the bass in so I could just really keep the low frequencies focused toward the center. Use my EQ here to roll just a little bit of the low end off so it wasn't too overwhelming down there. And then between the two, this has got a nice, good round low end. In context of mixing, the first thing I did when I created those parts was I just wanted to make sure that the basses had a good top end. They kind of stood out and had personality up on the top, but they still had some good roundness on the bottom, so that if I didn't put a lot of other layers on them, they still sort of stood by themselves. The next thing I did was brought the beat in. Again, pretty simple. That's the main beat. I do have this wood block thing. And then that along with the bass. So this is the chorus of the song, but it's pretty bare, right? So I needed some growth as I'm moving along. I knew that I needed to kind of grow as the chorus progressed. So I bring some more sounds here. But I purposely saved those sounds till later in the chorus because I wanted those two bass parts to really have their time to shine before anything else came in. So as the chorus builds, I wanted something to kind of introduce the second half of the chorus. And so I brought this synth right here in. Just something atmospheric. So as I built out the second half of the chorus, knowing that it would be more layered with sounds, more energy, I laid each sound asking myself, does that do the job? What else does it need? So everything has to sit in the mix correctly for me to determine that. Let me just kind of take this down one step at a time. First thing, I brought some extra percussion in, brought a clap in, brought a hi-hat. The next thing I did was brought this sound in called Missed Drops from Signal by Output. I was looking for something that was sort of atmospheric and arpeggiated that really fit well. And one of the things with this sound, I felt like I needed a little bit more edge on the top, high mid, so I brought in this multi-band distortion. A lot of times, if you're looking for something to give a little bit more crunch or top in a certain spot, rather than use an EQ to kind of ramp up the frequency, you can use a multi-band distortion and give it a little edge, a little distortion up there, kind of bring those harmonics out. In this case, I did it right here with this little drive. Just add a little bit of that. Just enough to give it a little more presence in the high mids right here, between about say 1.7K and 10K. And I like that. But I wanted to bring in something that I felt like would really make it feel very current, fresh, and I like vocal sounds for that. So I went, in this case, for something from Excel. Great synth, love that sound. And also this. Really love that sound. For the end of the song, I'm looking for more energy in the chorus, so I bring some extra things in. That just gives it a little bit of a pad, a little bit different energy than the choruses previously. And then by the time we get to the last half of the last chorus, I brought in some extra percussive elements. Right here. There's some extra claps. For me, each one of those choices had to do with how the other sounds were sitting mix-wise. So the way the drums are laying, the way the kick and snare or kicking claps are reacting together against the bass, all that stuff has to sit right before I decide if I want to add something else. All right, you guys, I hope this was useful to you. If it was, please like, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you'll know when I put out other videos, and until next time.